Warning, this podcast will contain spoilers about the series Hunted Australia. It'll contain some strong language and at some point may even contain a dog. Hide and Seek is a childhood classic game played by children all around the globe. But how about when they become grown-ups?
Could they leave behind the lives they built and stay hidden in order to win a cash prize, evading capture from their country's elite team of hunters?
My name's Craig.
And I'm Nat. In 2022, we discovered the UK version of Hunted and became obsessed.
We've since found out about Hunted all around the globe, and for this series of the podcast, we're going down under to talk all things Hunted Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. I've just received information that we have 18 fugitives in 2 vehicles headed towards the Melbourne area.
Copy check.
Fido Delta will review the footage and stand by.
You got to trust your instincts. I know you thought you were trusting them today. Maybe you were. We don't know if they came. That's just it. We don't.
The thing that scares me the most about going on the run is paranoia. Just that whole unknown element of, will we be hunted today?
Surveillance in Australia, I just feel like everyone's being watched.
If I can't outsmart the hunters, then how am I supposed to do my own job? It's almost conflicting to normally be the good guy.
You're the bad cop now.
Yeah, but you still have to win.
Why not my house? I mean, that's an option.
That's a rookie error. Like, only because it's the first night. They'll be thinking, well, who are they going to reach out to first?
I quite honestly don't think it's going to be an issue tonight.
That's the access point right there for vehicles.
So if we're going to deploy a sentry camera on that, we want to have it in a position that can cover the driveway and on foot straight at the front door.
Hi Delta team, what I need is you to put a camera up so we can see all access points, keep them under surveillance, do not get compromised.
Is there anyone in the car?
Oh, look, they might be leading down.
We're going to lose Jackie in a minute.
Is that Jackie? That's Jackie. Jackie!
Oh, hunters. That's her. That's her. Oh
no! So it's time to get your capture pants on and run away from the hunters.
It's not the hunters I'd worry about, it's the 400,000 crocodiles and 140 species of land snake.
It's okay. No snakes or crocodiles are going to get you here. We're still in the UK.
Jordan might though.
Good point.
Welcome to the Hunted Podcast.
Try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.
Hello and welcome back to the Hunted Podcast. Hope that you're all alright no matter where in the world you are. You could be in the UK or you could be...
In Australia?
Yeah, well done.
I was waiting for an accent, sorry.
Oh no, I'm not doing accents. No, I'm a reformed character and I am no longer doing my Australian accent because I fear that it may offend our Australian listeners.
Alright.
So I'm not doing that, and I'm just going to talk normally about the show, and that's going to be. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to be normal, and there will be no accents over the next 45-ish minutes of the Hunted Podcast.
Okay, right.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, fine.
Yeah, so there you go. Welcome back to the Hunted Podcast, and it's great to have you with us as always. Thanks so much for your feedback so far. It's been great to see so many of you getting involved all across our social media platforms, which, if you're not involved over social media, you should be, and here's how.
Twitter, @HuntedPod, Instagram, @HuntedPod, Facebook, it's just HuntedPod, or email us, huntedpod@outlook.com. Oh, and please say something if you email us. Don't just say hi.
Yes, please do. Quick forewarning. Okay. That just shows how bad this is going to be today. I'm still recovering from not being very well. like I've not had much sleep, but I've been surviving on digestive biscuits for the last 4 days.
Yep.
So my head is all over the place. I don't really know what I'm doing. I can't really remember the 2 episodes which we watched, which we're going to be talking about today. So this could be a load of drivel. So just be
Good luck.
Just be forewarned. Absolutely, just be forewarned. Right, shall we crack on? We are going to be talking about episodes 5 and 6 today.
5 and 6.
So yeah, let's crack straight on with it. As always, we talk about it in pairs and how the Fugitives got on in their pairs. But can we have a quick recap, please, as to where we last left off? Who have we got left in the game? How far are we into the game?
Okay, so we have 13 days remaining. So we're about halfway.
13 days of 21? 21? Yeah.
Yeah, so, sort of halfway. Left, we have Jake and Rob, Stathy and Matt, Lavinia and Nick, Panit and Chris, Sunny, Joe and Grace, and Karen and Brittany.
So let's just remind ourselves a little bit about the Fugitives as well. So Karen and Brittany, I'm testing myself here in my own memory. Karen and Brittany are niece and aunt.
Yeah.
Stathy and Matt are just mates.
Yeah.
Who else we've got? Grace and Sunny Joe. Nobody actually knows about Grace and Sunny Joe. All we know is that they are podcasters and friends. Who else have I missed?
Panit and Chris.
Panit and Chris, mates.
Jake and Rob.
Jake is a police officer and Rob is a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And they are also mates.
Yep. And then Lavinia and Nick.
Engaged at this point.
Yeah.
Engaged at this point. From a bit of wealth.
Yes.
And that is an important detail, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Right. I really liked episode 5, mainly because it was short. I like the short ones. There were more adverts in it than actual action.
Yeah, you get a lot of adverts.
All 4 app needs to sort itself out. One thing I did like at the start of it, I do like at the start of Hunters Australia, as we've said every week, is the constant recaps. And I like the little clips which they give you as well. So you get better at the start of this one. They can run, they can hide, but they're going to have to hide well.
Ooh.
And they do have to hide well in this episode because the heat does ramp up. Where do you want to go first? Who do you want to go to first?
So obviously we're doing 5 and 6.
We are. Should we do...
I thought we'd start with the pair that we see the very, very least of, which is Lavinia and Nick.
Wait, are we doing 5 then 6, or are we combining?
Oh, I was just going to combine them.
Oh, let's do that, yeah.
Isn't that what we did last time?
I can't remember. I don't know what day of the week it is.
We're just going to combine 5 and 6 and deal with them pair by pair.
Let's go.
Right, so Lavinia and Nick. And all I have is a teeny tiny bit from episode 6. They're in Marysville, and all I've got is from Wealth.
Yeah. I've got sleeping in the suburbs there. And one of the hunters says they're struggling without their finer things.
Yes.
I think we're really going to see this because of the way that it's been edited and the way that the journey has continued. Obviously, when somebody's out in the early parts of the game, it's natural that those who stay in longer don't get seen longer. So, for example, if you think about Celeb Hunted that we've had on recently in the UK, we didn't see a lot of Bobby and Saffron until later on. We didn't see a lot of Katia and Amy.
No.
We just saw glimpses of them because there was a lot of focus on others because they were doing other things.
Yeah.
They had near misses, etc., etc., etc. With these two, because we've not heard a lot from them and not seen a lot from them, I do think that it is going to be this constant message of them struggling without the finer things. And you sort of see a little bit from memory. There's a little clip, it's about 3-4 minutes, where they've obviously slept rough. By rough, I mean sleeping out in the suburbs, not in a hotel, not in a luxury tent.
Yeah.
We're talking sleeping bags, ground, hard ground floor. And because of that, they're having to do their business, aka their toilets, out in the wildlife. And we see not necessarily an argument, but we see a little bit of a disagreement between the two about, he doesn't want me to go, or I don't want to go, or whatever.
Yeah, you see a bit of sort of, I don't want to say stuck-upness, because that's not a word.
Well, it is, because you've just said it.
But stuck-upness. The thought of, I'm too good to sleep outside. I'm too good to do my toilets outside or in a shared toilet.
I think it literally is a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Because when you're camping rough, that's
Yeah.
what you do. You have a wee in a bush, and you dig a ditch in the ground to
For your
do other
toilets.
thing, for your other toilets.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I can see that a little bit. Maybe not wanting to get their hands dirty. And I really do think that mentally they're going to struggle the longer they go on, because from what we've seen on screen, they've not really had any close calls. They've basically just gone from the drop, moved on, and are now getting that thing of, are they coming for us? Do we need to do something to stand out? Do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And I think from the clips that we've seen for the next lot of episodes, where we do start to see them a little bit more,
they're coming after them.
Yeah, and the hunters are coming after them in a way we've not seen in the UK version, which I like a lot, and that is by freezing their bank card. They are used to having, yeah, they are used to having money, resource, access to it, and if they're cut off from the things which they value the most, and we as humans value the most, which is being able to go and make a purchase, then all of a sudden your mental state does go a little bit questionable. So really looking forward to seeing how they cope with that and talking more about the impact of that on next week's podcast.
Yes.
Who next?
Next, let's go to Staffy and Matt.
Okay, let's go chronologically with these. So let's.
So we left at the end of episode 4. We left it with Team Alpha going to the church that Staffy and Matt were going to stay at.
These were code words, weren't they?
Code words. So we start off episode 5 with the hunters approaching the church and then meeting Kyle.
Yes, and he doesn't seem to know what's going on, although there is another note on the door for Jason, Michelle, Alpha Team, who don't really know what's going off, and the hunters seem to think that that the instructions for the lockbox and the questions are more of a fuck you towards the hunters.
Yes.
Which is funny. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe they were reading too much into that. But, like we said last time, those code words, whether or not they were deliberately made, which were hinted at as the episode went on or not, doesn't matter, because it's put the hunters on their trail. And I still stick by what I said last week, which is it was a mistake to leave them on your fridge.
Yeah, massively. Even if it is just like a decoy, you're still not going to make it that easy for them. Silly.
Yeah, you don't want them on your tail. I know part of this game is to draw them in, but you don't want to draw them in that close. Especially at that stage in it. So it was quite funny to see that interaction, and the fact that then Staffy and Matt arrive just as the hunters give up. Maybe if the hunters' frustrations hadn't got the better of them, maybe they could have had a capture. Could
have been, but it wasn't. Because Staffy and Matt turn up minutes behind the hunters leaving. And they meet Robin, who is Kyle's mum, and Robin owns the church or owns the house or whatever. They meet Robin, and she tells them of the hunters' little visit, and that sort of panics Staffy and Matt a little bit.
Yes, they have that little cocky moment of blessed be Staffy or whatever it was on the fridge, and they're thinking that they're, plain sailing and all of that stuff, but it's far from it, because once they realise that the hunter's been on the tail, not only is their camper van potentially compromised, it's back on with the backpacks, it's back out into the heat, and heat plus anxiety plus worry multiplied by fear equals a very dangerous game.
Yeah, and we don't then see them till quite near the end of episode 6, where they've been staying in the bush. Do we call it the bush? For a while. They've not made any contact with their support network for a while, and we see that Matt is starting to struggle quite a lot with the sleeping in a tent, sleeping rough, not seeing anyone, not getting any help. And that's sort of where we leave it with them.
It's a real common feature, isn't it, at this point in the show, that it's the emotions which they start to drill down, and you almost see a change in tact from the hunters in terms of right, we're going to go after their networks. We want them to be rumbled. We want them to know that we've been knocking on doors. We want them to know that we've been talking to family. We want them to know that we've been visiting houses and looking at places where they've been. We want them to feel fear. And likewise from the fugitives, we see them be physically and visibly shaken and starting to question every single move they're making. It does make for compelling telly. And I think no matter where we go next, I think it will be a common theme with that. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Stathy and Matt. I'm not entirely convinced that they're going to last the distance as a pair.
Okay.
I think one of their strategies next may be to
split. Okay. Well, we will have to see.
We will indeed. Where are we going now then?
Let's go to Karen and Brittany.
Okay. So Karen and Brittany, we need to go back to episode 5 for this, because where did we last leave them?
One Thaggy at Ross's house.
Good old Ross.
Or left Ross's house.
Yes.
But Ross's house comes back into play because HQ gets CCTV of them leaving Ross's house. They see what they're wearing. And they know what they're looking for. And Karen and Brittany make their way to the bus station to get a bus to Cows.
Yes, the bus to Cows.
The bus to Cows.
And the legendary bus driver. Come on,
who I think is called Graham. Yes, Graham.
Graham, the coach driver.
But first, before we get Graham, Karen and Brittany see their wanted posters at the bus stop.
Can we?
They do and they don't. They sit down and then there's a that's us.
Yeah, I mean, I've defended Hunted quite a lot in terms of things which are realistic and faked. If there was one clip that someone in the "this has been faked" camp was to show me, that I couldn't defend.
That bit.
It would be that, because it was such a, oh my God, it's us. Oh no.
Quick, rip it down.
Oh, damn, rip it down. Oh, we've got to rip them all down. Oh, God damn it. It was very, very like, put it this way, if it was an acting audition, you'd just be going, next.
But yeah, they start to panic, but they get on the bus to Cows, and this is when Graham, the bus driver, gets involved.
So, Graham, the bus driver. Oh, wow. Obviously, we've seen this so many times, and we always say this, don't we? Never trust the public, because Graham, the bus driver, does something which many people on Hunted Past have done, and that is offer help. But by offering help, gathers intel. And he is fresh on the tip line. I like that. Love the tip line. Ben's in charge of the tip line phone, just a standard phone, which, the numbers on and people ring up and give their tips or whatever. And yeah, he not only tips Ben off about their plan to board the ferry, he gives them full description, what they're wearing, what they said, what they were sort of thinking about mentally.
Yeah.
Every little detail that Ben could want is there. And we know that the hunters ask for every detail, because it doesn't matter how insignificant you might think that would be.
Yeah.
It literally could be like, what colour trainers were they wearing? Those details are key when you're looking on CCTV and things like that. So every little detail, Graham, the driver, gives to Ben, and it is, well, it's waiting to happen, isn't it? And to be fair, it should have happened a lot sooner had Team Alpha, who are my favourite team so far, but they were a little bit distracted. I can't remember what by, but I just wrote down Alpha distracted, and they eventually, I think they end up slipping the net overnight.
Yeah, so Team Alpha get to the ferry terminal, and before they get there, we see that Karen and Brittany misread the timetable.
They thought
They thought there was a ferry at 1 p.m, but there was no ferry until 3 p.m. So they had quite a 3-hour wait, I think.
Yeah, I think they ordered had like a relatively long wait for the 1 o'clock ferry, didn't they?
Yeah, so they decide to leave the dock and go and find somewhere to sleep, and Team Alpha just sort of missed them.
Yeah, they slipped off into the bushes and got away for an extra night. But after camping overnight and missing their foot... See, this is my thing, right? So they thought the ferry was 1, but it's actually 3.
Yeah.
But they didn't get that ferry.
No.
So either that ferry didn't turn up or they had a change of heart.
I think they panicked and went elsewhere.
Yeah, and to be fair, that panic helped them because, Alpha were at the 3 o'clock ferry, even though they didn't look... The edit made it look like they didn't look very hard.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, they probably weren't there.
Yeah.
Which is fair. But because of that, they've missed their way out. They know they're still in an area where the wanted posters are up.
Yeah.
Where they know the CCTV, they know they've been spotted, they know that hunters are more than likely going to be area, and they have absolutely no plan as to where to escape. All they want to know, all they know is that they're not going to get a bus, they're not going to get a ferry. For God's sake, Craig, they're going to get a bus.
Yeah.
And I have a question. In fact, I have all the questions.
Correct.
In the one thuggy area,
Yeah.
is there only one driver?
Yeah, it's just Graham.
Just Graham.
Just
Thought
Graham.
so.
He's that good that they don't need any of the drivers.
Yeah, because the bus which happens to pull up... By the way, did you write down what bus it was?
No.
Oh, that's good because I can give you a quiz question. What time was the bus that they were looking to get, and where was it to?
12:45.
Yeah.
To a place.
No, it was the 10:18 to Melbourne, because that's exactly what Graham told Ben on the tip line, who greeted him like an old friend.
He did.
Hello, Graham, my old mate. How are you, my old chum? How are you, my old chine? You got some more intel for me? What a guy. What a guy.
So again, it's Team Alpha that gets sent in.
Well, they're there.
They're there. They're 3 minutes out. And they dump the car and go in on foot. And very quickly spot Karen and Brittany at the bus stop.
They are quite literally
sitting
on the dock of a bay. I'm not going to sing it, but you know the song. Everyone who's listened to this and knows the song will be humming it in their head now. Do, 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 do. Watching the... No, I'm not going to sing it. No.
So there's a little bit of a run. I think one of them even starts running and then goes back for their little food shopping bag.
Yeah, why would you do that?
What?
Oh, no, me bars.
Just buy more bars.
It's really not that important, is it?
One of them goes back for it. But anyway, I think it's hands on Karen first and then hands on Brittany a few seconds later. And we have a capture.
Yes. And I wrote down, no bus ride, but a little trip with Team Alpha. And
not a very big trip with Team Alpha, because Team Alpha are back out.
Now, you see, this is one of my other things, right? This applies for the UK version. Where did they actually take them? Do they literally just drive them around the block so they can get the shots of them in the car going, I can't believe they got me, mate. I can't believe they found me after all my hard work and planning and dedication.
Didn't last long, did ya?
20 minutes, exactly.
Okay. But yeah, so Karen and Brittany are caught. And I put Chief congratulates everyone because he goes round and shakes everyone's hands, and I just think that's really sweet.
Now, I wrote this down on a number. It is really sweet. I wrote this down on various bits of paper throughout the 2 episodes we watched, and that is that David Craig, the Chief, is an absolute legend and a true leader.
Yeah. Because
not only does he go and congratulate everyone, gives them high fives, gives them hugs, pulls them into hugs, whatever. He gets the team together and he re-rallies the troops. He uses the adrenaline, he uses the joy, he uses the motivation of a capture to go again. We've had our celebrations, we've had our 30 seconds. Get back into it. Let's get back into it. And at that point, 5 teams remain in the game.
Yeah.
And Team Alpha are back on the road, and it is, they are a very busy team as we head into episode 6. But before we head into episode 6, shall we have another quickie?
Go on then.
Punny and Chris.
Go on then.
I mean, I wrote square root of sod all down
you
for
did
them.
that, and I got.
I did. I've written half a page.
Yeah, I got a bit. So we know that they've been using their network to find places to stay.
Yep.
We learn a bit about Chris's past, that he was a drug user in his past, but now he's clean. And then we find out that they are deciding to leave the safety of their Indian network, and they are using a car to get to a friend of, I believe it's Chris's stepfather.
Yes, it is. And I think this is where we'll probably pick up in the next episode, at the start of the next episode, with them potentially being taken out of the game very, very quickly. The hunters have, admitted that they've slipped the net, that they've got local knowledge, they're local boys, so they know the area, and that they've tapped into that community, which they said, they didn't really have much intel on and things like that. So they're going to put the focus on Chris. I think he's a father of a young child, or he's got a young family.
Possibly.
And, will want to reach out to his wife and check on the kids and all of that thing. And he's a real family-orientated guy. So they put their efforts into looking into his digital network. And here is high praise again from the Australian production team, or for the Australian production team. I can't speak today. I can't get my words out. I'm literally 3 seconds away from pressing the stop button and deleting this whole thing, but I'm not going to do because I'm getting shot evils. Not doing this again. And that is the fact that every time there is a process of what the hunters and the HQ team do, it is explained.
Yes.
It's not just, well, we've got X amount of teams out of the game. We're going to put our focus on Chris and Puneet now. And, all of a sudden they're looking at Chris's network. And, lo and behold, they've traced his stepdad. And, they've tapped into his calls. And, oh, my God, they're on him. They explain how, they explain why, and they explain the reasoning.
Yeah. There's a lot of, right, so these are the family members. Let's put these people on intercept. Let's look at them. And then it's not just we've had this random call, let's follow it. Here we had a random call to Jeff, the stepfather, and Ben phoned him. Yeah, stranger that they borrow the car, it's got a sat-nav in it that doesn't work. So they pull up on the road and they use a stranger called Forrest.
Was it Forrest?
I think it was Forrest.
Okay.
They use Forrest's phone to call Jeff for help.
Important to note at this point as well that I think Chris and Puneet did all the right things.
Yeah.
They didn't use a phone which was identifiable for them, and they knew that they were taking a risk in potentially that call being traced. But they had to make it. They were literally up shit creek without a paddle. The navigation wasn't working. They didn't know where they were going.
No.
They needed help.
Yeah. So they use his phone to call Jeff. Jeff helps. They then also use Google Maps on their phone to sort of get a hint of where they're going. And then they look for where they're going and they get to, I wrote Chucker. I wrote Chuck to begin with and then added an ER at some point. So it's either Chuck or Chucker.
Right.
But they get to his house.
Yes.
But during that time, HQ calls Forrest. Forrest says that they call someone on his phone, but also say that they look at Google Maps and gives Ben the location that they looked at. So he's just handed HQ their location.
Yeah, it's handed them on a plate. I wrote down that HQ have banked on this outreach, which, HQ, not everything that HQ do is methodical.
No.
It is thought out, and sometimes there is a bit of a gamble. And another thing which please remind me to talk about at the end is showing other bits which aren't quite relevant. I know you're going to scribble that down now. Just write other bits that aren't quite relevant, and I should remember what I mean. And there is a bit of a gamble process, and it pays off on their part. But sometimes, when you panic, you do go to your default brain reactions.
Yeah.
Fugitives, I think, generally try and be methodical and think about what the hunters might do.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Sonny, Joe and Grace, who we'll talk about a little bit more in the next 5 minutes or so, they do certain things to sort of give the hunters one path to follow when they're going down another one completely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thought process, but that's a methodical pre-thought process without any pressure.
Yeah.
When you are under pressure, when you are backed into a corner, when you are struggling, when you're not quite sure what's going on, your natural reaction is to go to default, is to make that phone call. They realistically, they shouldn't have made that phone call.
No.
They shouldn't have. They should have asked for the stranger's help, maybe. Where can I buy a map?
Or just have used it for Google Maps instead of phoning Jeff.
Yeah. You know, because you can lie. You can blag your way. Oh, I'm on a road trip and my sat-nav stopped working. Any chance... And my bloody phone battery's just died. Any chance I can just have a quick look on your phone as to how I can get to this location? Oh, yeah. Cheers, mate. Diamond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The old-fashioned thing, pre-sat-nav, of asking for directions and asking for help. But panic sets in. I'm on the run. I need to get here.
I'm going to phone him.
Already, that phone call, and that puts the hunters back in the game. That little bit of luck and hope and guesswork then comes in because of panic. So it's interesting to see. What I like as well is that there's once they do manage to get to the place, but they know that their options are thin, and they're then asking their contact for his contact's help, but they hit a streak of bad luck.
Yeah. We get 2 teams.
Yes. 2 teams are closing the net, but they get bad luck in terms of their contacts.
Not answering. Not
being available. And it almost just feels like, you know, they might as well just walk out with their hands up and go. Or, no, what they should do is sit on a sofa and just wait for the hunters to walk in and put their arms on. You're being hunted, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, so we leave Chris and Panit with team B and D.
Go on. Come on.
Bravo and Delta.
Yes. Well done.
Thank you. With them turning up to the house.
Covering all bases.
And that's where we leave it.
Yes, that's where we get the credits roll. Right. I think we probably have to go Sonny, Joe and Grace, Jake and Rob, and then Sonny, Joe and Grace. I know we're doing Sonny, Joe and Grace twice.
I feel like there is a bit where we've got to mix them together.
Yeah. So let's catch up with Sonny, Joe and Grace first.
Right.
Because we've not really seen a lot of them.
No.
They are the UK equivalent of Bobby and Saffron, who we don't see a lot of, until it's nearly time for them to go. And I want to talk about them first because we do see a little bit more about them in the episode. And I mentioned a couple of minutes ago about methodical thinking beforehand.
Yeah.
And that is doing something which, when it initially gets put on TV, you're thinking, what the fuck are you doing?
Yes. Yeah. So they had sort of laid fake traps, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They'd made a lot of fake phone calls, left voicemails, searched for things, sent each other emails for quotes, reservations, things like that, but they weren't real.
Yeah, they knew that they would lay in a fake track. They'd even gone as far to make out hotel bookings in areas, and they never planned.
Car hire, everything. They had everything planned for a fake plan.
Yeah.
When in fact they had gone in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so it's almost like, right, we're going to map out a route from over in in the UK in sort of Norfolk and that way and that side of the country, when in actual fact we're going to just jolly around Wales.
Yes.
We're going to be complete opposite ends. We're going to send you that way. We're going to go that way, and we'll do our best to avoid you. And my goodness, does it work?
Yep. So the hunters have a look at that area, and it completely puts them off track. There's ground hunters to those areas. They make contacts within the decoy area. So the hunters go, they gain their own associates who will grass on them when in fact they're not even in that area.
Yeah, and it serves them very, very well indeed, other than one huge stroke of bad luck, which we will come back to once we've visited Jake and Rob. So we pick up with them, Jake and Rob, who are earning extra money and earning extra spends. And this is a really good way of doing it. It's never explained in the show's rules, and it's not explained in this show's rules. But I guess it's a way that you can do it. Because if you were a real fugitive, that was exactly what you would need to do.
Yeah, so they're working in a hairdresser's to gain extra money. You know, you've got Rob cutting hair, Jake working in the back. They're earning some extra cash so that they don't have to use their card. And
they're doing this, again, like you said there, to not use the card, but to also sort of stay one step ahead. So if they need to pay for a bus ticket to get somewhere, they can do it without it being traced because they can pay cash.
Yeah.
They can pay for a train ticket or whatever.
Yeah. And they're also doing it for their accommodation as well.
Yeah. The mistake that they make is having to play to the show's rules, which is to taunt the hunters. And they do it, but they're clever in doing it.
Yes.
They, go to the place where they have the Olympic rings, take the photo with the Olympic rings and send that on to a contact who then sends it on to a contact who sends it on to a contact. So it's almost like a 3-step trace to post it at another time. And they also make the decision to surrender with the bank card which they're given at the start of the process and allow the hotel manager to make a purchase on that card and basically pay for a whole round of drinks for everyone.
Yeah. So, but it's agreed that won't be done until they've left, because obviously they know that as soon as that card is used, the hunters will be onto them. And this is where we get two teams sort of getting mixed up.
Yes, it is. And there's one thing that I did write down. I can't remember the exact quote or who said it, but egotistical fugitives are the best. They can't help themselves. They just want to be in the spotlight. That's what one of the HQ teams says. And there's probably a fair point to that, because they do want to be in the spotlight. And what they don't need to do is they don't need to give that bank card to that person.
No.
They don't need to do that. They also don't need to post the photo other than the show's rules.
No.
They can do one or the other.
Yeah.
And by doing two, that just confirms that little seed of doubt, because they've sort of played that little game of distraction and knowing that one of them's a police officer. Just one little nugget of information like, oh, there's been a bank ping here. I think we saw it one of the fugitive teams early doors. I think it might have been Stathy and Matt with the coffee cup.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're in that location. No. So having that bank card pin, the hunters might have been like, all right, okay, yeah, we'll have a little look into that, but we're not going to put all our eggs in that basket. But then by having that photo and having that deduced in terms of where that location is and doing that geolocation image search and all of that stuff, which again is explained beautifully, just confirms it.
Yeah,
and
they're there.
It puts the pressure on, and then they know then that it's very easy to deduce where they're potentially going to go next.
Yes. So Jake and Rob are heading to the train station. However, At the same time, Sunny, Joe and Grace are also heading to exactly the same train station.
This is in Geelong, right? Ballarat. Sorry, where Sunny, Joe and Grace have been camped out and playing a game of giant chess.
Yes.
Enjoyed that.
And Jake and Rob have been staying at a hotel.
Unbeknown to each other, they don't know that fugitive teams do not communicate. It is, in a wide area, it is statistically unlucky.
Yeah.
Maybe even unlikely that they'll be in the same place, but we've seen it time and time again. It happens. People move, and that's exactly what happens. You don't know, we don't know who's in the house next door. We don't know. There could be a fugitive living on the next street that's in the next series of Haunted. We have no idea.
We've got no idea.
You do not know.
So both teams are heading to the train station. Jake and Rob get there first. They manage to get through the station, buy a ticket, and they manage to get on the train before Team Alpha get to the station. So when Team Alpha search the station, they're nowhere to be seen.
Before we talk about Team Alpha searching the station, I've got one memory which has come to me of them driving to the station.
Go on then.
Again, I like Team Alpha, and I think one of them, Jace, has followed us on social media recently, so welcome to the party, which probably means he's been listening to the podcast, so hello.
Hi.
But also, I know it's your job to sort of like look around and everything and sort of like look one way and the other, but for God's sake, man, keep your eyes on the road. At one point, he's driving like this. He's going. It's long stairs and whoa! That's a production nightmare waiting to happen. That.
Yeah. So, Jake and Rob have made it onto a train. Team Alpha have missed them. However, at that point, Sunny, Joe and Grace are being dropped off. And as Team Alpha are leaving the station, Sunny, Joe and Grace are getting out of a car and they look a bit suspicious to the hunters. They're a bit out of place. They've got massive bags on, and instead of heading straight to the train station, they walk round the corner in order to put on their disguises.
Yeah, and they are quite literally caught with their pants down.
Yeah. Sunny Joe takes his shorts off and he's just in his pants on the street.
As you do.
So it takes Team Alpha a little while to decide whether this is a pair of their fugitives, whether they need to go after them. There's a bit of discussion, they check pictures, and then they realise it's Sunny, Joe and Grace.
Now, this is an interesting point, right? Because from the production and the edit, it seems like the ground teams are given fugitives to go after. Like, specifically, Jason Michelle, I think, who are Team Alpha. They're looking for Jake and Rob.
Yeah.
So if Jake and Rob slip the net, you would think that their attention is to go on to Jake and Rob's next location and to find out where they're going and to focus their efforts entirely on them. That is not the case.
No.
If they spot something suspicious, they are, ex-police, ex-military, all of these things. So spotting suspicion is not something which is uncommon to them.
No.
They spot it. And I think they actually spot it because of the cameras.
Yeah.
And the mic packs. I've just knocked my microphone there. Sorry about that. They have the mic packs around the necks. Couldn't remember what the bloody word was then. I really need to go to sleep. And they spot it because of that.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's that little process. They sort of stay at a distance, they watch, and they have access to that database of people that they are looking for. And therefore, we see the HQ team and the ground team do what they do best, and that is on the money. That is reactive, not proactive, reactive.
Yeah.
Getting their shit in order, parking what they need to do. They accept. They're not letting the frustration of letting Jake and Rob slip through the net. They're fully focused on taking someone else out of the game now because the opportunity has presented itself. And that's exactly what happens, really. And there's a little bit of a foot chase. Gracie's first out, Sunny Joey's second. Wrong place, wrong time, and well executed accident, I think, are the words of the chief.
Yeah, it was a very, it sort of fell into the hands of the hunters. And you see afterwards that Sonny, Joe and Grace aren't disappointed in themselves. Even they admit that they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, the chief admits that they weren't after them. They didn't know where they were. They had no idea what they were doing. They just happened to be in the wrong place and got caught.
So unlucky. Really did feel for them, to be honest, because the game that they played, we've not seen much of them.
No.
But the game that they played, what we've seen in the previous episode, them explaining about laying the false trail and the reasonings behind it, brilliant. And I genuinely think, had they got away on that train, I think we maybe would have been talking about them as potential winners.
Yeah.
Because they were
a really strong pair.
Yeah, they were so far behind them, and this is, a really strong pair. They did really, really well, and they kept everybody, and I mean everybody, guessing.
Yeah, they did really, really well, and yeah, they were just unlucky.
Yeah, very unlucky. What I mean by guessing as well is, the HQ team aren't given much other than names and ages and photos. They don't know each other's relationship to each other, so they have to figure it out. So they spent a lot of time trying to deduce whether Sonny, Joe and Grace were a couple.
Yeah.
Whether they were maybe Bubby and sister, for God's sake.
Brother and sister.
Brother and sister. This has not been a good episode for me. Brother and sister. I'm not putting this out. I am. Brother and sister. I just got the look of you fucking are. Brother and sister. I think one of them makes a comment about the eyebrow line or something, which is
something about eyebrows.
One of them maybe suggesting married or cousins. I don't know, but they are literally just friends.
Yeah.
They have a platonic friendship relationship, which is really, really great, and it works so well to their advantage. And I'm disappointed for them, and I can't wait to hopefully get the chance to speak to them to actually find out a little bit more about them. To find out more about what they did and how they feel about being in the wrong place in the wrong time. And, maybe if they'd have held out for another half hour or so, the Team Alpha wouldn't have been there, and then they'd have been away.
Yeah. But yeah, so they don't get away, but Jake and Rob do. Yes. Jake and Rob make it to Geelong.
3-hour train journey.
Yep. And they help Neville for free board.
I wrote down here initially Neville slave driver. But, Jake and Rob now are starting to slip up a little bit because of those little slips, because they've got CCTV. No doubt that'll come to the surface. Yeah. They'll figure out what train they went on and stuff. There's been a number that's been traced as well because they've had a burner phone.
They have, yes.
Which they've managed to get hold of using cell site analysis.
Yeah.
Get in. Woo. And, they're very much not necessarily traced there, but they know that Neville could be of some interest. Mm-hmm. So Ground Team Bravo are sent to have a little trip and have a little catch up and question of Neville, which the conversation goes a little bit like this. Ground team, can we come in? Neville, nah. Slips inside, texts them to warn them as they're waiting at another location, and off they go. And Liz and Matt arrive to drive them away to a remote location. So again, they slip the net.
Yeah.
I love how in Australia, people who are helping the fugitives are so much more like, no, you're not coming in.
I love it. Like in the UK, they'd be like, yes, of course you can come in. Whereas Australia, they're just like, nah, fuck off.
Yeah, no chance, mate.
Ain't happening. You ain't coming in here.
Yeah.
Off you pop.
Yeah, get out of here.
I'll talk to you out here, but no, you're not coming in my house.
Yeah, and it's a tactic which is working well for them, to be fair. So looking forward to seeing how they get on. Unlucky Team Bravo. They did look like a couple of annoyed schoolboys, though, who had had the football taken away.
Yeah.
So interesting to see what goes off. Right, that's all of the fugitive teams ticked off the board. Shall we have a little couple of reflective comments from episodes 5 and 6?
Yeah.
Was it 4 and 5? 5 and 6.
Do you want to do your other bits aren't quite relevant?
Yes. So, what I mean by this is, when we were looking at Sonny, Joe and Grace, there were fleeting clips. I mean fleeting, we're talking like 10 to 20 seconds
Yeah.
of what the ground teams, who we'd not yet previously seen much
Yes.
of, actually being out on the ground and proactively chasing up these leads. We do not see that at all in the UK version.
Yeah.
Like, we got to know about it. Like, for example, when we spoke to the Speakmans, we know that towards the end of their journey, Kirsty and Bex very nearly captured them. But we don't see it on screen because it, they've X amount of screen time, all of that stuff. But the ground teams who aren't necessarily involved in active captures or near misses, their work isn't shown.
No.
Which is a little bit of disservice to them. Because they do actually do a lot of work, which is knocking on doors, asking questions around town, doing what police and, special agents, that sort of thing do.
Yeah.
I think they used to call it like working the rubber or whatever, something like that, and really going out and doing that work. So I just wanted to have a little bit of appreciation for that.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Anything that you want to appreciate and comment on from the last two shows that we've seen?
No, because we've already spoke about how nice the chief is and that he congratulates everyone and he gets everyone involved. And they're like one big team. They
are one big team. We now know that Hunted Australia Series 2 is coming. Sorry, Season 2 is coming out in Australia. No idea when it's going to hit the UK, if at all it will.
Nope.
But
it looks good.
It does look good. The trailer that we've seen so far is well edited. It gets you on your feet. It makes you on the edge of your seat. It grips you in, which means that if it does come to the UK screens, or we do find a way of watching it, surely we might have to review it.
Possibly.
Because we've got no idea when the next series of the UK Hunted's going to come on. And, it's all about sharing the love, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see if we can do a little bit on that as well. Final reflective thoughts on the last couple of episodes. There was one little bit that I wanted to say. We're obviously going to swoon over Ben in this podcast because he's ours. He was ours first. He was our deputy, then he was our chief, and then he abandoned us for a hot country, for two hot countries. But we love him, and he's an absolute top man as well. And it's this. You can take the boy out of the UK, but you can't take the UK out of the boy. And at one point, he says, I can't remember exactly
I think they'd not got a capture or they'd missed someone or something.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I need to try and find it now. Because I know I wrote it down because I knew I wanted to talk about it. And I can't remember after whose it was. It was after a near miss. Just scrolling through. It's basically about having a cup of tea, isn't it?
Yeah, he says something about... Let's cheer ourselves. Oh, go on then.
It's in episode 5. It's 7 minutes 52 seconds. If you want to see the clip, let's have a cuppa. I can't read me in writing. Let's have a cup of tea. Cheer ourselves up and go back to the drawing board. And do you know what, Ben? I can't fault that whatsoever because, as we know, a good cup of tea does solve everything. Apparently so. Right, we will see you next time for our review of episode... Where are we next? I can't remember.
7?
Are we on episode 7 already? What have we just done? 5 and 6?
5 and 6.
5 and 6.
5 and 6.
So, yeah, we will see you next time for that. Episode 7. It will just be episode 7. Then it'll be episode 8. Then it'll be episode 9. So we are now going to do the rest of the series
one by one,
and see what transpires. Mainly because they're long, and hopefully we'll have some interviews as well. But if we don't, we don't. We'll do what we can do for you, and we'll see what we can. We'll see what content we can put out for you. As we continue to say, week in, week out. If the UK version does come to the screens in the next 3-4 weeks or so, we'll pause this and come back to it another time. But we don't know. Please stop inboxing us and asking us. We have no idea. We are not in any way related to the show. We are just a couple who stumbled across Hunted last year, enjoyed it, got hooked by it, and decided to start a podcast about it. We have no intel whatsoever.
Nope.
Please stop asking because I am this close from sending the Hattie gif.
Oh.
Congratulations to her, by the way.
Oh, Oh.
Hattie, HQ Hunter Deputy in the last
Yep.
Celebrity series. Obviously, if you follow her on Instagram, you'll have known that she's been pregnant. And we saw, I think it was this morning, she shared a picture of her sat with a glass of bubbly with a newborn baby.
Congrats,
wrapped up.
Hattie.
So congratulations to Hattie. Well done to you. Wish you and your family very, very well indeed. Right, we'll be back down under at the same time next week. In the meantime, though, if you want to get in touch and have your say, please do.
Twitter @HuntedPod, Instagram @HuntedPod, Facebook it's just HuntedPod, and email us huntedpod@outlook.com.
Now, we did have one interesting tweet this week, which you've just reminded me all about.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice message from somebody just saying that they enjoyed the show and things like that. Last week we spoke all about code words. It was from a Twitter user called Lewis. I hope I've said that right. Another great podcast, guys. Wouldn't your strategy of using book/TV references as codes be a bit flawed? Because those things would also be accessible to the hunters, and with some general research they could decode it, as opposed to using something not publicly available. Fair point, because we spoke about using code words and using characters in TV shows like, we'll meet you in Ted City, or we would do something related to Ted Lasso or other shows that we'd watched. I don't think we'd make it as plainly obvious. I think we between us would certainly sit down and rehearse characters and have our own coded language.
Yeah.
What we're going to do over the next week, write it down so I don't forget, because I will forget, is we are going to come up with a coded conversation based on TV shows / book characters. We're going to talk in that coded language, and we want you, as a little bit of an exercise, a little bit of
some homework
maybe, a little bit of fun, to see if you can decode what we're talking about. So next week we will start the podcast with our little bit of coded conversation. You up for that?
All right, bring it on.
Love it. Right. Thanks so much for listening. That's all we've got time for. So all that's left to say is, I'm giving it to you.
Your time on the podcast is over. You have been hunted down.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me.